Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Again, so so good to be back when you are on retreat on sesshin for a week. It feels like you've been gone for a year. And several people in Sanzen today said that too, like, wow, I've been gone so long. It was really just a week. So we were here, some of us were here 2 weeks ago. And yeah, so I just want to, this may or may not make sense to folks who haven't been following the Ango, but I'll just kind of give the talk that I had planned. And that is kind of winding down from our 100-day practice period called Ango, which we do every fall, 100-day intensive. And vowing to deepen our Zazen practice, our study, and to inquire into this human life. So, get some notes out here. I'm just thinking of the connections here. I love, as I said, the way that Ango flows over these 100 days and culminates in Rohatsu, which is a celebration and a recognition and a reenactment of the Buddha's awakening that we mark on December 8th. So the retreat always encompasses December 8th. And if Ango is a kind of slow cooker, 100 days, midway you're like, wow, it's still going on, it's a long time to keep a vow. If it's a slow cooker, then sesshin is turning up the heat, tightening down the lid of the pot. That's what a sesshin is. So for those with experience, and I always feel the need to just comment a little on the art of sesshin for those who have not had the experience of going on sesshin. It is a very, very powerful practice and very difficult. So in brief, we create this environment in Zen in which we put aside all the decisions needing making in our everyday life and set up this perfect environment to relax, right? Food is prepared, schedule's prepared, everything's in place. Life becomes incredibly simple. And we're just invited to sit there and relax and bring the mind present. Doesn't that sound great? For days on end. But guess what happens? The mind rebels, the body mutinies, the heart wavers. And it's true for all of us. We probably just get more skilled with it. But if we see what the practice is, if we see into what the practice is, then we are incredibly, bolstered in our sense of confidence and resilience and connection to each other. So it's hard work. It's very hard work. But if we know how to sit with pain without adding suffering, what an amazing feat. What a powerful resiliency that brings our life, because we do not escape pain. We all know that. We can run, we can deny, we've got all kinds of defenses, but we will not escape the pain in the body and the heart. And so at a retreat, we sit with the pain in the back. We sit with the ache in the heart, the grief that arises, the confusion. And we bring a bigger mind. We take refuge in something larger than our usual pushing and pulling in life. And if you stick it out, if you stay steady, something else emerges there. We see that there's a bigger ground of existence than just this chattering and this constant I wanting and not wanting. So it's incredibly validating, and because it is so humbling, all of us end up dropping so many stories about who we are. It's these small boxes that we've put ourselves in that we didn't realize who other people are. It always amazes me. I recommend this practice to people who go into a cafe or somewhere. Notice what happens in about 3 or 4 minutes, the stories you've made up of everyone in the room. Dangerous, nice guy, I don't know about her, right? All these stories. And we act from them as if they're real. We act as if they're real. We're unconscious, most of them. Some of them are conscious. And what's beautiful about retreat is sitting next to people you don't know hardly anything about. You don't know what they do for a career, what they like or not. And this retreat's nice because we had a mix of sanghas, so even some people I didn't know yet. But you really know them intimately from the body, from sharing the space in the body and the heart, and getting beyond all of those usual categories. And so if you were at a sharing session at the end of a sesshin, you would think this was the greatest thing to do on earth. There was no problem whatsoever. It's all like, oh my God, there you are, there we are. And we help each other through this. The purpose is not to live at sesshin, but that kind of concentrated practice is really helpful. Really helpful. So when you get the opportunity to do so, highly recommended. Dropping our stories. Mushin, who I co-led the retreat with, shared an experience with me, and I think I can share this because I really admire her way of, she's in her mid-70s, and she really is studying aging. And she says, I'm studying aging not from the stereotypical aging. That's the best way to study it. Not from my ideas of what should be aging, what's really happening. And if you really study something, it's not happening like the books say it's supposed to be happening, or your ideas. But something happened which kind of snagged her a little bit, which says the shed outside the zendo was left open at the end of retreat. And she had been working with 2 people in the garden, and those tools are expensive, so it was a big deal to have left this open, and she noticed it. And she said, what happened there? She's like, I swear I locked that. And then, so again, there was the, Shuso said, is the key still there? You were the last one to have the key. These other people didn't have access to the key. So on and went like that. And then she said to me, this is aging. This is what happens. You swear you did something. You swear you did it. And look, and this is the beginning, right? And so she's sharing with me a little bit about that. And of course, an hour later, some neighbor comes over and it's like, who's part of the sense? I said, I'm sorry, I forgot to lock the shed. So it's one of those examples, and we can all watch ourselves where we go with a story. We've got it all mapped out. This was not proving her, dementia. But the fear, if it snags just a little bit of our fear, then the story really proliferates. And we start living inside of it. So someone asked me, in jest, kind of back from retreat, like, oh, how was it? And are you back to earth yet? And I paused for a moment. There's some truth to that because it is lightening. There's a real enlivening that feels out of the ordinary in our everyday life. But actually, the real answer to that is sesshin is about coming down to earth. Sesshin is coming down to earth, and what we return to is the proliferation of our dream life that we call consensus reality and normal. That's coming to earth. And that's what we aspire to do in this everyday life, is to come to earth, to come into this body, drop the stories, not know each other, be open. And sesshin teaches that. But of course, this is our bread and butter as Zen people every day. We're doing it every day. There's plenty of moments of practice. At this retreat, we studied, to end with Rohatsu is beautiful. We studied the Buddha's awakening. We inquire into what was that awakening? What did the Buddha awaken to? And what does that have to do with us? Do we have access to that? Can I know that? And what would change? What would not change? Is it something I'm doing or not doing that will influence that? So we took up this question of what is Buddha nature? What is Buddha nature? With a koan, which I'll bring in. It's beautiful because my talk was already done by our recitation. So anyone who has this, I sent it out by email. But if you'd like to study Buddha nature, all you have to do is replace the words luminosity with Buddha nature in this writing. Buddha nature has no location. When Buddhas appear in this universe, it does not arise with them. When Buddhas cease, Buddha nature does not cease. When you are born, Buddha nature is not born. When you die, Buddha nature does not die. You cannot grasp it, you cannot throw it away, it is unattainable. Although it is unattainable, it penetrates this whole body. It goes on. It's wonderful. So we say many things when we meet Buddha nature. The realization of emptiness, true mind or true self, or original face, many words to point to the same thing. But that is the question then, what is it? What is it? When the Buddha awoke under the tree, he said, I and all beings are simultaneously awakened. I and all beings. And I don't know about you, but when I heard that, I said, but I don't feel like that. I hear those words, but I don't feel like I joined you under the tree. And thus is the inquiry. In the Dogen's Busho, which we were, both Mushin and I were quoting from, he opens that, Dogen, his master, opens that chapter with all beings, quoting Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni says, all beings are, not have, but are Buddha nature through and through. All beings are Buddha nature through and through. And so this is a koan for us as practitioners of what it means to practice, to realize something that, this is what Dogen says it's not. That is not some floating abstract soul, Buddha nature. It's not something separate from us. It's not a substrate in the world. It's not fragmented. It is not graspable. It is not intellectually knowable in that way. It is not dependent on practice, nor is it separate from practice. It does not depend on feelings and consciousness. And it is not hidden or concealed. So what are we to do then? The rug has been pulled out. But finally, I love this, it is not nothing. It's not nothing. So the koan that we explore, I'd like to put in the room, Mushin and I took, which I loved, we took a line every night for the week. So we walked very slowly. How many people got a chance to listen to any talks? Okay. So a few of you, and unfortunately, only the last one was recorded, which was unfortunate. And what happens? And as I say, I'm always giving the same talk in a different form, so stick around. But this is the koan, and this koan, Dogen used over 300 koans in his writing. But there were a handful of them that he quoted over and over and over again, which clues us in that this great Zen master thought something very important was held in this koan. He cites this in over a dozen of the fascicles that he wrote out of the 100 chapters. So this is the exchange, worth remembering and thinking about and pondering. Zen master Nanyue went to study with the sixth ancestor Huineng. And Huineng asks, where are you from? Hint, that's already a trick from the Zen master saying, I'm got my eye on you. Nanyue replies from Mount Song, which is a common answer, ordinary answer. Huineng inquired a little more deeply, I must say, what is it that has come like this? That's not an order.
Sato?
Yes.
There's a bit of a vibration, like a little bit of a feedback. So I don't know if you can position the microphone a little closer or something.
You can move it here, but also, Punchy, can you give me the clicker for the heat? I'm going to turn off the, see if the little reverb. Thank you, Joseph, for breaking in there. And then Huineng said, please hand me the clicker. Because our koans evolve, right? Let's see if that helps. Just so I think we don't have any more tricks after this. Lori, unless you want to check the Zoom sound setting? Is that in?
It's on all how it's supposed to be.
Is it on a low suppression in the background?
I don't think you can do that anymore with the musicians thing, but I'll check.
So, yeah, that might not be helpful, so how far away from the mic. Yeah, we probably shouldn't do that. Okay. Josu, does that change anything?
Those last couple of words seemed better.
Okay. Oh, this is our modern technology. Game of telephone with words missing. This is a really good moment. Nanyue, who's a Zen master already, so it's already accomplished, says he couldn't answer. And he attended Huineng for 8 years. He was stumped, and he attended this incredible Zen master, the sixth ancestor. And then one day he came back to the teacher, to Huineng, and said, well, now I understand it. When I first came to study with you, you asked me, what is it that has thus come like this? What is it that's come? And I love that Nanyue repeats the question, because I'm sure Huineng long forgot. He asked this young monk this, or the Zen master. Huineng said, how do you understand it then? And Nanyue says, to say it is like something necessary. Huineng follows up and says, does it depend on practice and enlightenment? And Nanyue replies, it's not that there's no practice and enlightenment, it's just that they cannot be defiled. Huineng replies, just this non-defilement is what Buddhas have maintained and transmitted. You are like this, I am like this. All the ancestors were like this. That is Dogen's koan that he drew from. And there are so many beautiful pieces in here that I won't go into them all in interest of time. I'll just comment on what strikes me here. One is staying with this koan all week. Huineng and Nanyue really come alive. They're really in the room. You know, we have to bring these koans alive by living with them for a while until you can really see who's speaking and why, and what their expression is, and what their emotional state is, and what's being asked. And so I felt very fond of Huineng and Nanyue by the end, in a way I hadn't when I started. And being in both the teacher and student role, I can take both sides. There are minor pieces in here that are brilliant. As I commented on retreat, that Nanyue didn't try to fake an answer is really good. To say, it was a really powerful moment. He said, couldn't answer. Most of us like, oh, what's wrong with him, right? That's an embarrassing moment, but it's not. To be able to claim not knowing and be there before the teacher, I don't know fully. But they're insinuating there, and I'm going to find out. I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to sit with this question because it matters to me. What is it who has come like thus? Means who are you? Do you know? Do you know yourself? Do you know who you really are? That's what Huineng is asking Nanyue to come forward with. And he spends those years doing the practice. Those 8 years are done in practice, the same way we practice. In sesshin, bowing, chanting, sitting, cleaning, cooking, resting, studying, over and over. When he comes back and he finally has realized the answer to this question, he's realized it not because he thought a lot about it. In fact, it's very likely he forgot about it. It's likely he was sitting doing oryoki one morning and said, oh, it's not like something. This part, it's not like something, is the title of the koan that is as marvelous a teaching. Nanyue is reaching for something he catalogs in his mind. Who is it that's thus come? I'm going to reach in my memory for something familiar that I've already known. But that is not who he is. We are not like something. You are not like something else. This moment is not like another moment. Nothing is like something else. That's a liberation. And if that's true, then what does that mean for your life and practice? All of the comparing mind that we get involved with, comparing ourselves with our future imaginary selves, our past imaginary selves, our neighbors, friends and enemies. If something is not like something, then this moment is precious and round and whole and perfect as it is. It's a really brilliant insight. But we have to come to it on our own. We have to come to it. But I love that Huineng follows up on that, because you can see that Nanyue realized himself beyond self. And but as I talked about in retreat, it's not just about that what is it, but how are you going to move in the world with it? What does it mean? How are you going to carry it forward? How will it serve? This is not about some self-satisfied aha in this practice. It's about how we respond to life's conditions, how we respond to pain, and transform suffering into nirvana. So Nanyue again gives a brilliant answer. Huineng traps him a little bit by saying, does it depend on practice and enlightenment? Meaning, does your awakening, your insight, is that a result of your practice and enlightenment? Do you need to keep, now that you have this, do you keep practicing? There's a lot of questions in there. What is practice? What is enlightenment? And Nanyue nails it. He says, it isn't that there aren't those things. There is a practice. We're doing a practice. We can practice or not practice. It's a relative truth. It isn't that there isn't an awakening or something to wake up to. But Nanyue says they cannot be defiled. What does that mean? It can't be sullied or marred or broken in some way, because they are Buddha nature itself. And that has to be true. Otherwise, Buddha nature is something won and held and contingent and dependent on something it's not depending on. What does that mean, not defiled? If we can, sometimes we can really encourage people to just get a direct sense of what's being said without deliberation. If practice cannot be broken, if you can't harm practice, or you can't speed it up or engineer it to get to come to a certain end, which we'd like to do, then what? Then that really deposits us in the mind of faith. There's no other place to be. Faith not in a blind faith or belief in some idea, but trust. A trust in one's deeper mind, which is always who we are through and through, not hidden or concealed. So this is a profound koan, and one has to live with. But what happens for Nanyue, I often say this, is that at the end of this koan, your life goes on. It's like, what happens the next day after this is exchange. But here's my story of Nanyue, is that he has a joyous practice. It isn't that he says, now I got what I wanted, see ya. I think I'm gonna go check out Sufism. Or I've got a trip to Hawaii now. I'm gonna kick back because I now realize my life. It actually, from that ground of realization, comes spontaneous compassion and the desire to serve. Not forced. That's what comes from that. Because when you see it and you are in touch with your own tenderness and the way we exist in our human folly, then there is an urge to serve, to let your life serve, not in the stereotypical ways, but actually let your life serve. And we return to practice for the sake of practice itself. Just a joy of the bowing, of the chanting, getting it right, getting it wrong, getting it right again, getting it wrong again. And swimming in those waters. That is a devotion and humbled and simpler. It does not seek some great reward or lightning bolt insight, but is fulfillment in and of itself. That's why Nanyue is next day. And so the exchange of the teacher and the student there is, you are like this, I am like this. Notice that it's a like this. Like what? Wait a minute, the thing says not to be like something. What does that mean? You are like this. Sometimes it says thus. You are thus. I am thus. There is a thusness or suchness is a pointing to the way, the uniqueness of the way things manifest in the environment of constant change. When we apprehend that, there's a preciousness, and we practice that in Zen. When we come into a room, we touch things in a kind of way, and ideally we meet each other in a kind of way to practice the truth that we're ready to wake up to. We put the body and the emotions before we fully grasp the ground, but that the life is precious and the practice is precious, so we honor it, not from some fetishism or should, thou shalt, but because we see what it points towards that's so precious. Really value the practice and value one's own practice, and particularly the practice of others. That we see we are in this Buddha nature soup together. So there's nothing to say more. The koan, we have to establish that at the core of our being. And I think we kind of align with it, right? It says Nanyue is attuned to it now. It's what we aspire to is to attune to it. And we attune to this truth, then we move in a particular kind of way. So as we head towards this 100th day of Ango, let everything be whole and perfect as it is. That's a practice of Buddha nature. There's nothing to grasp. The practice is whole, complete, unconcealed, free. Nothing to grasp. More like this. I am like this. It is thus. Hallelujah. So, as for those who are joining us new, we have a tradition of just going around the room and winding through the sky zendo, where the